Every human life begins in the storm. Pain, fear, and uncertainty arrive long before strength does. And before we learn how to stand, life is already testing how much we can endure. For most people, the storm becomes something to run from. They chase comfort, avoid discomfort, and panic the moment the sky darkens. They try to negotiate with pain, hide from fear, and beg uncertainty to leave them alone. But storms do not retreat. They reveal. The storm shows who you are when everything you rely on is taken away. When the people you trust falter. When your plans collapse. When the future disappears into fog. In these moments, you learn whether your foundation is solid or made of sand. And the truth is this: most people are not destroyed by the storm itself, but by the belief that the storm should not exist. Fear grows stronger when you demand safety. Pain grows sharper when you demand comfort. Uncertainty becomes unbearable when you demand control. If you've ever felt that inner storm, the tightening of the chest, the racing of the mind, the weight of a world you can't predict, listen closely to what comes next. Because the Stoics were not spared from chaos. They were not chosen for an easier life. They faced war, betrayal, sickness, loss, and death, just like everyone else. But they learned something most never discover. You cannot calm the storm outside until you calm the storm within. Marcus Aurelius lived in a world collapsing under plague, corruption, and endless war. Every morning he woke up to problems no emperor could solve in a single lifetime. And yet his writings never sound like a man drowning. They sound like a man who learned how to breathe underwater. He did not beg the skies to clear. He trained himself to walk forward in the rain. When the thunder roared, he did not flinch. When the winds shook the empire, he did not lose himself. Marcus stood where others fell because he understood one truth: the storm is not your enemy. The storm is your training ground. The Stoics saw pain as a signal, not a curse. They saw fear as an invitation to grow stronger. They saw uncertainty as the proof that life is still moving, changing, evolving. And they refused to surrender their peace to the things they could not command. When fear rose within them, they did not run. They examined it. When uncertainty clouded their path, they did not freeze. They took one step anyway. When pain appeared, they did not resist reality. They opened themselves to the lesson hiding behind it. You are not here to run from the storm. You are here to become the kind of person the storm cannot break. The kind who does not collapse at the first sign of fear. The kind who does not surrender to uncertainty. The kind who can walk straight into pain and come out sharper, wiser, stronger. And it all begins right here. Not by avoiding the storm, but by learning how to stand inside it without losing yourself. Most people believe they suffer because of what happens to them, because of what someone said, because of what life took away, because of a future they cannot see. But pain, fear, and uncertainty rarely come from the world outside. They rise from the world within. There is a moment, right before fear takes over, where the mind whispers a story. A single thought that sounds like a warning, but is actually a seed of panic. What if it all goes wrong? What if I'm not enough? What if this ruins everything? And that story becomes the storm. This is the mistake almost every person makes. They believe the first story their mind tells them. They treat their thoughts as if they are commands. They trust their fear more than their strength. They let imagination write a future darker than reality ever intended to be. The Stoics saw this flaw with absolute clarity. Epictetus said that people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. He watched ordinary men collapse under fears they invented, pain they magnified, disasters that never came. Not because the world was cruel, but because they trusted a frightened mind. When fear strikes, the mind paints a picture of the worst possible outcome. When uncertainty appears, the mind fills the blank space with shadows. When pain arrives, the mind predicts that it will last forever. And without even noticing, a person becomes a prisoner inside their own imagination. Imagine a statue standing in the center of ancient Rome, carved from unbreakable stone. It has survived storms, fires, battles, and time itself. Yet a single crack in its foundation can weaken it more than anything the outside world ever could. Human beings are the same. The crack inside the mind is always more dangerous than the storm outside. Most suffering is self-inflicted, not because we choose it, but because we never learn to question it. We let fear repeat itself over and over until it becomes truth. We let uncertainty build a prison of what-ifs. We let pain echo long after the moment has passed. The Stoics refused to let the mind run unchecked. They paused when fear spoke. They challenged the first reaction. They examined the story instead of accepting it. And in doing so, they discovered a power most people never touch: the ability to separate what is real from what is imagined. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As the Roman Empire trembled, it wasn't the wars or plagues that threatened his stability the most. It was the temptation to believe the world was falling apart faster than he could hold it together. But he resisted the illusion. He did not accept fear's first interpretation. He questioned every thought as if it were a messenger whose motives had to be tested. Pain hits once. Fear hits endlessly. Uncertainty is only unbearable when your mind demands certainty. But when you remove the second blow, the mental one, most of your suffering disappears instantly. Until you see this clearly, you will mistake your thoughts for warnings. You will mistake your fears for truth. You will mistake your imagination for your future. And the storm inside you will always be louder than the storm around you. But when you recognize the mistake, when you see that your mind is the sculptor of your suffering, you begin to take back control. You begin to stand like the ancient statues, solid, centered, unmoved by the noise of the world. Because your strength comes from within, not from the illusion your fear created. Marcus Aurelius did not write his wisdom from a place of comfort. He wrote it while standing in the middle of chaos. While the empire fractured, while plague tore through his people, while betrayals circled his throne. He wrote not as a man protected from the world, but as one tested by it every single day. Imagine the emperor not as a king seated on a golden throne, but as a towering stone figure carved from endurance itself. The weight of the empire pressed against his shoulders like a mountain, yet his foundation did not crack, because he understood something his enemies never did. Chaos is not an obstacle for the Stoic. It is the proving ground. While generals begged him to retreat, while advisors whispered fear into his ear, Marcus focused on one simple practice: to see clearly, not through emotion, not through panic, not through imagination, but through the calm and steady lens of reason. Every morning, he returned to the page. He wrote to himself, not for others. He reminded his mind of the truth he would need to endure the day. You will meet ungrateful people. You will be tested. You will feel tired, overwhelmed, afraid. But none of this is stronger than your ability to respond with clarity. This was not poetry. It was armor. The plague that swept Rome killed thousands every week. Marcus watched entire legions fall. Familiar faces vanished overnight. Fear spread faster than disease. But the emperor did not allow panic to infiltrate his mind. He could not save everyone. He could not predict the future. He could not control the winds of fate. But he could control his character. And that was enough. Even betrayal found him. His own general, Avidius Cassius, declared himself emperor. A rebellion rose against Marcus while he was hundreds of miles away. The news reached him like a blade. Most rulers would have responded with anger, vengeance, or paranoia. But Marcus Aurelius did something almost no one in history has done. He forgave him instantly. Not because betrayal is acceptable, but because Marcus refused to let the actions of another man dictate the state of his mind. He understood that anger is a chain, hatred is a prison. To react with rage is to hand your inner world to the very people you wish to rise above. And so, the emperor remained calm. He made plans with a steady hand. He addressed the empire with a steady voice. He walked through uncertainty like a man guided by something deeper than fear. The Stoic contrast becomes clear here. Where others collapsed under pressure, Marcus grew sharper. Where others drowned in emotion, Marcus rose into reason. Where others lost themselves, Marcus found a deeper version of himself, waiting inside the struggle. Most people imagine strength as muscle, force, domination. But Marcus Aurelius became one of the most respected rulers in history because he realized true strength is invisible. It is the ability to remain yourself in a world that tries to tear your identity apart. Pain did not make him weaker. Fear did not blind him. Uncertainty did not scatter his mind. Because he understood that each hardship was not a punishment, but a summons, a call to rise, a call to think clearly, a call to live wisely, a call to master himself. And in mastering himself, he mastered the chaos around him. Every Stoic who walked the earth held one principle above every other, but Epictetus carved it into the core of his life. He was born into slavery, beaten, owned, controlled, denied every freedom. And yet, from that life of restriction came one of the most powerful teachings the world has ever heard. Control what you can, let go of what you cannot. Everything else is noise. This was not a philosophy he studied. It was a truth he bled for. Imagine a stone figure of Epictetus standing in a dimly lit Roman workshop, rough, unpolished, forged from pain rather than privilege. Chains lie broken at his feet, and yet his face is calm, carved with acceptance rather than resentment. He discovered something emperors never learned, that freedom begins in the mind, not the world. Epictetus divided life with a single strike, as if splitting marble with a hammer. On one side, the things that belong to you, your choices, your judgments, your character. On the other side, everything else, the weather, the past, the opinions of others, the outcome of your efforts, the fate that unfolds beyond your reach. Most people live their entire lives in the second category, begging for the world to bend to their will, fearing outcomes they cannot dictate, chasing approval they cannot force, trying to control events that were never theirs to command. And every time they try, they suffer. But Epictetus stepped out of that prison. He turned his attention inward, where control actually exists. He mastered his reactions, his discipline, his choices, his courage. And that is why a slave became a master, while emperors became prisoners of their own desires. He understood that fear tightens its grip the moment you try to control the uncontrollable. He understood that pain grows sharper when you demand comfort that reality will not provide. He understood that uncertainty becomes a monster when you insist on predicting a future that has not arrived. So he let all of that go. He released the world from the responsibility of keeping him safe. He released people from the responsibility of treating him kindly. He released fate from the responsibility of making life easy. And in that release, he found strength. Imagine his statue now standing in a courtyard of broken pillars and forgotten ruins. Wind sweeps across the stones, but he does not move. He does not need the world to change in order to stay standing. His foundation is within. To Epictetus, this was the law that dissolved fear itself. You fear outcomes because you believe they define you. You fear uncertainty because you believe it threatens you. You fear pain because you believe you cannot endure it. But if none of those things belong to you, if none of those things touch your inner power, then fear has nothing to hold on to. When you draw that line as sharply as he did, the world becomes lighter. Half of your suffering disappears in an instant because half of it was never yours to carry. This is the law of control. to focus entirely on who you choose to be, rather than what the world chooses to do. It is the law that frees the strong from the fate that crushes everyone else. It is the law that turns chaos into clarity. It is the law that transforms a powerless man into an unshakable force. And once you understand it, you begin to feel something shift. You begin to sense the strength Epictetus found, the quiet, immovable certainty of a person who no longer fights battles outside their control. A person who builds their power where it actually lives, within themselves. Long before Marcus carried the weight of an empire, and long before Epictetus forged freedom from within, Seneca uncovered one of the most dangerous forces in the human mind, the suffering that does not exist. Imagine a vast hall of ancient Roman statues. Some stand tall and unbroken. Others fracture, crumble, or collapse into dust, not because the world struck them, but because they split themselves apart from the inside. This is what Seneca understood. Humans are destroyed less by reality and more by their imagination of reality. Fear sharpens its claws long before the event arrives. Pain becomes heavier long after the moment has passed. Uncertainty expands until it feels like a void swallowing the future whole. The mind becomes sculptor and destroyer at the same time. Seneca believed the greatest suffering is the suffering we create when nothing has happened yet, when the danger exists only in thought, when the future is haunted not by truth but by possibility. He watched powerful men panic themselves into ruin. He watched the wealthy fear losses they had never experienced. He watched the strong tremble before threats that never came. And he realized something profound. Imaginary suffering is more lethal than real suffering. Picture a stone warrior in the arena, carved with flawless precision. There are no enemies around him, no lions, no blades, no crowds. And yet the cracks forming down his chest come not from external blows, but from the internal tremors of imagined defeat. He breaks before the fight even begins. This is the human condition. We torment ourselves with shadows. We predict storms and then drown in the rain of our own invention. We replay fears until they become prophecies. We let a possibility grow teeth sharp enough to wound us. Seneca urged people to examine their fear with brutal honesty. Is the danger real? Is the threat present? Is the pain happening now? Or is your mind dragging you into a battle that doesn't exist? Most of the time, the world is silent, but the mind is screaming. Seneca warned that the mind becomes wild when left untrained. It amplifies every uncertainty. It stretches every worry. It colors every unknown with darkness. It prepares for disasters that never appear. And in doing so, it drains the strength you need for the real challenges of life. Real suffering requires real courage. But imaginary suffering drains courage before the real test even arrives. The Stoics knew this, which is why they practiced a discipline almost no one else understands. To confront fear with clarity, to examine thoughts before believing them, and to refuse the temptation to suffer in advance. Focus on the present moment, Seneca taught. The present is smaller than fear imagines. It is survivable, endurable, manageable. It is only the imagined future that feels impossible to face. When you stop letting your mind drag you into 100 futures, you discover that you can handle the one that actually arrives. Seneca believed that victory begins with this realization. Fear weakens when brought into the light. Pain shrinks when stripped of imagination. Uncertainty loses power when confined to the present. When you stop suffering before suffering arrives, you unlock a strength few people ever feel. Real challenges remain, yes, but your mind no longer multiplies them. You face the world as it is, not as fear paints it. And in that clarity, you reclaim the power the imagination once stole from you. There comes a point in every Stoic's journey when discipline is no longer enough. You can prepare your mind. You can question your fears. You can control your judgments. But sooner or later, you must face the truth that transforms everything. Strength is not something you use. Strength is something you become. Most people spend their entire lives reacting. They react to fear. They react to pain. They react to uncertainty. Their identity is fragile because it is shaped by everything outside of them. They are statues made of sand, impressive from a distance, but collapsing under the slightest pressure. The Stoics carved themselves from a different substance. Their identity was not given to them. They forged it. They sculpted it. They chiseled away weakness, self-pity, dependence, and fear until something unbreakable remained. Imagine walking through the ancient ruins at dawn. Sunlight creeps over the edge of the horizon and reveals a massive statue hidden in shadow. Cracked, weathered, scarred from centuries of storms, yet still standing, still present, still unbowed. This is the identity the Stoics pursued. Not perfection, not invulnerability, endurance. They asked themselves a simple question: who do I choose to be when everything around me falls apart? And their answer shaped the core of their identity. A person who keeps their mind clear when others panic. A person who keeps their heart steady when others break. A person who acts with principle when others scatter. A person who holds the line when others run. The Stoics believed identity is revealed only under pressure. Anyone can be calm when life is gentle. Anyone can be wise when nothing is at stake. Anyone can be kind when they are comfortable. But who are you when life hits harder than expected? Who are you when the future dissolves into darkness? Who are you when fear is standing directly in front of you? Strength does not appear in those moments. It is revealed. Marcus Aurelius walked through plagues, betrayals, war, and the collapse of the empire. Yet the writings in his journals are not the words of a man breaking. They are the words of a man becoming. Epictetus rose from slavery, hardship, and physical torment. Yet he carried himself with dignity so powerful that kings sought his counsel. Seneca survived exile, political sabotage, and the constant threat of execution. Yet his letters speak with clarity, compassion, and courage. These men did not endure because they were special. They endured because they decided who they would be long before the test arrived. They chose to be the ones who stand. Most people tie their identity to success, approval, or comfort. They become who the world wants them to be and fall apart when the world withdraws its support. The Stoics tied their identity to character, to their own actions, to the strength they cultivated inside. No amount of chaos could take that from them. And when you begin to shape yourself this way, something shifts. Fear loses its authority. Pain becomes a messenger instead of a master. Uncertainty becomes a path, not a prison. You become the one who endures. Not because life gets easier, but because you grow strong enough to face it exactly as it is. There is a moment in every struggle when thinking is no longer enough. Reflection has served its purpose. Preparation has steadied the mind. Perspective has cleared the fog. Now something else is demanded: movement. The Stoics were philosophers, yes, but they were warriors of action. They understood that a clear mind without decisive behavior is like a statue with no foundation, beautifully sculpted, but easily toppled by the slightest force. In the ancient forums of Rome, carved into the walls, was a simple truth the Stoics lived by. Character is revealed by what you choose to do, not by what you claim to believe. Picture a massive stone figure of Marcus Aurelius standing at the edge of a battlefield. Around him, soldiers shift anxiously, storms gather overhead, and the future of the empire trembles. But Marcus takes a single step forward, not because he knows the outcome, but because action itself is clarity. Action cuts through fear. Action breaks the paralysis of uncertainty. Action separates the weak from the disciplined. The Stoics never waited for confidence. They acted their way into confidence. They acted their way into courage. They acted their way into peace. Most people wait. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for fear to disappear. They wait for certainty to arrive. They wait for the world to grant them permission. But the perfect moment never comes. Fear never leaves on its own. Certainty never arrives as a gift. And permission never appears unless you claim it for yourself. The Stoics knew that hesitation feeds fear. Overthinking strengthens uncertainty. Delaying action gives pain more room to grow. So they practiced a simple principle. When the path is unclear, begin anyway. When the task feels heavy, start small. When fear whispers warnings, act before it grows louder. Seneca called this the antidote to suffering. Epictetus called it the discipline of will. Marcus called it the duty of a human being. Each step forward, no matter how small, was a declaration. I will not be ruled by my fears. I will not be controlled by my doubts. I will not be defined by my hesitation. Action becomes a sculptor of the self. Every decision, every disciplined choice, every courageous step carves the mind into something stronger. Like a statue refined through deliberate strikes of the hammer, the Stoic shaped himself through every action he took. And when life collapsed around them, they did not ask, why is this happening to me? They asked, what is the next right move? What is the next duty? What is the next step within my control? This shift from thought to action transformed ordinary men into figures of legend. A mind trained in philosophy is powerful. A mind moved by philosophy is unstoppable. The Stoics acted not because they felt ready, but because they understood that readiness is a consequence of action, not a requirement for it. And through this practice, they discovered something profound. Life cannot break a person who keeps moving forward. Fear cannot control a person who confronts it. Uncertainty cannot paralyze a person who takes the next step. In the world of the Stoics, action is not merely movement. It is a declaration of strength, a commitment to living, not hiding, a refusal to let the storms of fate decide your destiny. Fear is the oldest companion of human life. It existed before language, before cities, before memory itself. It is carved into the bones of every creature that has ever walked the earth. But unlike most creatures, humans carry a unique burden. We fear not only what stands before us, we fear what might stand before us. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of death, fear of life itself. The Stoics did not deny fear. They did not pretend they were above it. They faced it the way a statue faces the wind, unmoving, unblinking, unbroken. Picture a vast arena carved entirely from stone. Torches flicker along the walls. At the center stands a colossal statue of a Stoic warrior, his shadow stretching like a monument across the ground. From the dark corridors around him, fear approaches, not as a beast, but as an emptiness, a cold presence that fills the air. Most people run, most hide, most let fear dictate what they will or will not attempt. But the Stoic does the opposite. He steps toward it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that fear grows when avoided and shrinks when confronted. He knew that the mind exaggerates what it refuses to face. Every avoided fear becomes larger. Every postponed challenge becomes heavier. Every unspoken truth becomes sharper. So Marcus learned to examine fear with precision. He asked himself what it consisted of, what it demanded, what evidence supported it, what part of it was real, and what part came from imagination. Fear loses power when it is studied. It becomes smaller when brought into the light. It becomes familiar when faced repeatedly. Epictetus taught that fear itself is not the problem. The problem is the belief that you cannot handle what you fear. He believed fear points directly at your next task. Where you feel the most resistance is where the most growth waits. Seneca dismantled fear by shrinking it. He reminded himself that life asks only for a moment at a time, not a year, not a lifetime, just the present moment, which is always bearable when faced honestly. The Stoic response to fear was not to eliminate it, but to narrow it down to what is here, now real. And once fear becomes small, courage becomes possible. Imagine the statue in the arena lifting his head as the cold presence of fear moves toward him. He does not wait. He takes a step forward, then another. The echo of stone against stone fills the arena like a drumbeat. Fear retreats, not because it is weak, but because it cannot withstand someone who refuses to retreat from it. The Stoic trains himself to move toward what he fears, not away from it. To treat fear as a compass, not a barrier. To see it as an invitation to expand, rather than a signal to shrink. Fear is no longer an enemy. It becomes a summons, a challenge, a doorway. And the moment you step through it, you discover what the Stoics discovered centuries ago. Fear is loudest before you face it, weakest while you confront it, silent once you pass through it. This is the Stoic response to fear itself. Do not obey it. Do not collapse under it. Do not let it shape your life. Walk toward it, study it, break it down, and you will cross a threshold most never do, the threshold where fear ends and mastery begins. There comes a moment in the journey of every Stoic when the storms, the trials, the fears, the wounds, and the uncertainties no longer feel like separate challenges. They merge into something else, a test of the entire mind. A test not of survival, but of identity. A person who reaches this point no longer asks how to avoid difficulty. They ask how to stand among it, how to remain themselves in the middle of chaos, how to grow even as life tries to shrink them. This is the final transformation, the creation of the unshakable mind. Imagine a colossal statue standing alone on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ancient world. The sky churns with dark clouds. Winds howl across the stones. Below, the ruins of centuries stretch as far as the eye can see. But the statue stands tall, carved with precision, carved with scars, carved with purpose. It has endured storms that shattered lesser monuments. It has survived time, erosion, violence, and neglect. Yet it remains. Not because the world was gentle, but because its foundation was deeper than the storm. This is the essence of the unshakable mindset. It is not a denial of fear. It is not the absence of pain. It is not a guarantee of certainty. It is the decision to stand firm in spite of them. The Stoics built this mindset piece by piece. They trained it through discipline. They tested it through hardship. They strengthened it through reflection. They sharpened it through action. And when the world pressed against them, they no longer bent. They no longer hesitated. They no longer doubted who they were. Marcus Aurelius carried the empire on his shoulders, but he carried something greater within: clarity. Epictetus walked the earth without wealth, rank, or freedom, yet he walked with something emperors envied: inner sovereignty. Seneca lived in a world of shifting power and constant danger, yet he spoke with a calm voice, stronger than the chaos around him. These men were unshakable not because they avoided life's blows, but because they absorbed them without losing themselves. The unshakable mind is built when you stop asking for an easier world and start asking for a stronger self. It is built when you stop resisting the wind and learn to plant your feet deeper into the ground. It is built when you accept that uncertainty is the natural condition of life and still choose to walk forward with courage. It is built when you refuse to let fear dictate your choices, pain dictate your identity, or fate dictate your worth. The storms will continue. The world will remain unpredictable. Life will offer no guarantees. But the person who cultivates an unshakable mind does not require guarantees. They do not fear uncertainty. They do not crumble under pressure. They do not trade their character for comfort. They stand like the ancient statues, weathered, imperfect, cracked by time, yet unbroken, unmoved, undefeated. The Stoics believed that a human being becomes truly powerful the moment they realize this. Nothing outside of you can shake you unless you hand it the permission to do so. And when that truth settles into your bones, a transformation begins. You stop bracing for the next storm. You stop bargaining with fate. You stop fearing the unknown. You become the one who endures, the one who remains present in chaos, the one who stands when others fall, the one who lives with a strength the world cannot take away. This is the unshakable mindset, not a shield from life, but a mastery of it. Strength is not built in comfort. Clarity is not born in silence. Wisdom is not forged in easy days. The Stoics understood that the mind becomes powerful only when it is trained the same way warriors trained their bodies, through resistance, repetition, and deliberate exposure to difficulty. Imagine a courtyard of massive stone pillars. Each pillar represents a discipline of the mind. Wind rushes between them like the breath of ancient Rome. At the center stands a colossal statue of a Stoic thinker, chisel marks still visible across his surface, as if he is forever being carved into a stronger form. This is how the Stoics saw themselves, not as finished beings, but as works in progress, masterpieces under construction, refined by each challenge life delivered. They trained their minds the way a sculptor shapes marble, with intention, patience, and force. The first discipline was preparation. Every morning, they reminded themselves that the world would not move aside for them. They expected difficulty. They expected resistance. They expected moments that would test their will. By preparing the mind, they softened the blow of life's unpredictability. Nothing was a surprise. Nothing felt unfair. Everything was an opportunity to practice strength. Next came the discipline of perspective. When the world pressed down, they stepped back. They looked at themselves as if from above, a single figure moving through an enormous, ancient city. From this height, fear shrinks. Pain becomes manageable. Uncertainty becomes simply another part of the landscape. A Stoic trained himself to rise above the moment so he could see the moment clearly. Then there was the discipline of exposure. The Stoics did not hide from discomfort. They approached it. Voluntary hardship was one of their greatest tools. Cold water, hunger, minimal possessions, long walks in harsh weather, silence, solitude, not to punish themselves, but to prove something essential. You are stronger than you think, and you do not need as much as your fears claim you do. By exposing themselves to manageable discomfort, they trained their minds to stay steady when real hardship arrived. Like a statue tested by wind, so it does not fall during the storm. Another discipline was reflection. Each night, the Stoics examined their actions the way a sculptor examines the day's work. Where did I lose my temper? Where did fear take over? Where did I choose weakness over strength? Where did I rise above myself? This reflection was not self-punishment. It was refinement. They sharpened the edges of their character, one day at a time. And finally, the discipline of attention. The Stoics trained themselves to keep their focus on what mattered. Not the noise of the crowd, not the opinions of strangers, not the fears of tomorrow, but the task before them, the moment at hand, the choice within their control. This unwavering attention became one of their greatest weapons. A mind that stays in the present is unbreakable. A mind that drifts into the future becomes fragile. A mind that lingers in the past becomes chained. Through these disciplines, the Stoics became immovable figures, like the ancient statues that survived centuries of storms. Not because the storms weakened, but because the mind, trained deliberately, became stronger than the winds that sought to break it. This training did not make them emotionless. It made them capable of meeting life as it is, capable of standing where others fall, capable of facing pain, fear, and uncertainty with clarity instead of collapse. And through this deliberate training, the Stoics discovered a truth that echoes through time. Strength is not an accident. It is a decision renewed every day, carved into your character like marks in stone. Every person carries a burden that cannot be seen, but can always be felt. Expectations. The silent pressure placed on your shoulders by family, society, the world, and most of all, yourself. The Stoics understood this weight better than anyone. Because even the strongest minds can crack, not from external chaos, but from the invisible pressure of what they believe they must become. Imagine a towering statue standing at the center of a great Roman plaza. Crowds gather around it, each voice whispering a command. Be stronger. Be perfect. Be successful. Do not fail. Do not fall. Do not falter. The statue stands tall, but the weight climbs like vines of stone, wrapping around its arms, its chest, its throat. This is what expectations do to a person. They bind you. They tighten. They suffocate. Not because the world demands greatness, but because you demand it from yourself, long before you're ready to carry it. Marcus Aurelius felt this weight every day. He was expected to lead with wisdom he had not yet earned, to carry an empire he did not choose, to be the symbol of strength even when exhaustion filled his bones. But Marcus realized a truth most people never see. Expectations break you only when they define you. He refused to let the world dictate who he must be. He returned again and again to the idea that a person is not the role they hold, not the image others project onto them, not the sum of external demands. A person is the choices they make in the present moment. Nothing more, nothing less. Expectations point toward the future, but the Stoic grounds himself in the now. He does not measure himself by what he must achieve, but by who he is choosing to be in this moment. Epictetus understood this deeply. Born into slavery, surrounded by voices telling him his worth was predetermined, he shattered those expectations not through rebellion, but by refusing to let others define his inner life. He carved his identity from character, not circumstance. Seneca wrote about the crushing pressure of public life, of trying to meet standards that were impossible, of wearing masks that pleased the world but suffocated the soul. His answer was simple: focus on the self you can control and release the self others try to sculpt for you. Because the weight of expectations grows only when you try to carry all of them. But when you step back, when you draw the line, when you strip away what does not belong to you, something shifts. The statue in the plaza begins to crack, not from pressure, but from awakening. The stone vines fall away. The figure straightens. The weight dissolves. You begin to realize that you were never meant to live under the demands of 1,000 voices. You were meant to live under the guidance of your own reason, your own discipline, your own standards, your own path. The Stoics taught that the only expectation worth carrying is the expectation that you will act according to your values, not according to the world's desires. Everything else is noise. Everything else is a chain. Everything else is a burden you can set down. And when you finally let go, you do not become less. You become more grounded, more present, more true, more yourself. Emotions are the fire of human life. They illuminate, they warm, they energize, but they also burn, consume, and destroy when left unchecked. The Stoics never sought to extinguish this fire. They sought to master it. Imagine a colossal statue standing in a darkened temple, torches flickering across its carved surface. Flames surround it from every side. Waves of heat pressing against its unblinking eyes. Most people would melt, collapse, or run. But the statue stands tall, not because the fire is gentle, but because its foundation is stronger than its surroundings. This is what emotional mastery looks like. Most people think emotions control them. Anger erupts and they strike out. Sadness settles and they withdraw. Envy rises and they feel lesser. Fear whispers and they obey. They treat their emotions as commands instead of signals, as dictators instead of messengers. The Stoics refused to serve their emotions. They studied them. They questioned them. They slowed them down until they became clear rather than chaotic. Seneca understood anger better than perhaps anyone in history. He saw how it twists the face, tightens the chest, and turns a rational human being into a storm of impulse. But he taught that anger is always a failure of perspective, the belief that the world must obey your expectations. Change that belief, and the anger dissolves. Epictetus faced humiliation, cruelty, and injustice, yet he learned to treat every emotional disturbance as an opportunity. When insulted, he examined his reaction. When provoked, he questioned why the words mattered. When threatened, he asked what part of him was actually in danger. Each emotion became a doorway to deeper understanding. Marcus Aurelius carried grief, exhaustion, and loneliness on his shoulders as heavily as he carried the empire. He watched friends die, loved ones fall ill, and the world crumble around him. And still, he wrote with clarity. Not because he felt nothing, but because he refused to let emotion dictate the quality of his actions. The Stoics practiced a simple principle: feel everything, but obey only what is within reason. They allowed emotions to rise, but they did not let emotions steer. They felt fear, but they acted with courage. They felt anger, but they responded with patience. They felt sadness, but they continued forward. They felt disappointment, but they chose discipline. Picture again the statue in the temple, surrounded by flames. The fire dances wildly, but the stone figure does not lean into it, nor lean away from it. It remains centered, balanced, unmoved in purpose. This is emotional mastery. Not suppressing emotions, but grounding yourself so deeply that no emotion can uproot you. Most people believe emotional strength is about being unaffected. The Stoics knew better. Emotional strength is about being able to feel fully without being ruled by what you feel. When anger comes, let it rise, but let reason speak louder. When fear arrives, let it whisper, but let courage answer. When grief touches you, allow it, but do not let it steal your direction. When frustration builds, acknowledge it, but choose your response deliberately. Through this discipline, the Stoics became something rare. Humans who could carry the weight of their emotions without collapsing under them. And in your life, you will face storms of emotion that threaten to sway you, shake you, break you. But emotional mastery gives you the power to stand firm, like the statue in the fire, surrounded by flame, yet never consumed. Loss is the deepest shadow in the human experience. It arrives uninvited, takes what you love, and leaves a silence that echoes through every part of your life. No philosophy can erase that pain, but the Stoics learned how to walk through it without losing themselves. Imagine a vast chamber of ancient statues. Some stand tall, others lie broken on the ground, pieces scattered like memories that once had form. This is the landscape of loss, a place where what once was can never fully return. The Stoics did not deny the weight of loss. They carried it, they felt it, they honored it, but they refused to let it consume the rest of their life. Seneca wrote about the fragility of everything we love. He saw how people cling to the illusion of permanence, believing those around them will remain unchanged, untouched by time or fate. But every relationship, every possession, every moment is borrowed, not owned. The Stoics understood this. Attachment to permanence is the source of deepest suffering. What we lose hurts not only because it mattered, but because we believed it would last forever. Picture a statue kneeling among the ruins, hand resting on a shattered pedestal where another figure once stood. There is sorrow, but there is acceptance too. The world has taken something, but it has not taken everything. Marcus Aurelius faced the death of children, the betrayal of friends, the loss of mentors, the decay of trust, and the constant threat of losing his empire itself. Yet in the quiet of the night, he reminded himself that nothing in life is truly ours to keep. We are temporary guardians of what we love, not permanent owners. Epictetus taught that loss becomes unbearable only when we cling to the illusion of control. When we forget that life is a cycle, and everything we hold eventually returns to the earth. He believed grief is natural, but attachment to permanence is a choice. Stoicism does not demand you feel nothing when you lose something precious. It asks you to feel fully, but wisely. Grief is not a flaw. It is the proof that something mattered. But grief becomes destructive when it makes you abandon the life still in front of you. The Stoics walked a delicate line. They allowed themselves to mourn, but they refused to drown. They cried without collapsing. They remembered without becoming prisoners of the past. They honored what they loved by continuing to live with strength, not by surrendering to despair. Imagine the kneeling statue rising slowly, lifting the broken fragment of another statue into its hands. It does not restore what was lost, but it honors it. The broken piece becomes part of its own form, a reminder rather than a wound. This is how the Stoic transforms loss, not by forgetting, but by integrating the memory into their character. To endure loss is to accept life's most difficult truth. Everything you love is temporary, but the strength you gain from loving and losing is eternal. You do not let go by force. You let go by understanding. You release your grip because you cannot hold the unholdable. You move forward because life, even in its sorrow, still calls you to rise. Loss shapes you, but it does not define you. What defines you is how you walk after the breaking, whether you choose to remain shattered or to become someone stronger, wiser, and unshakable. There is a form of courage greater than facing pain, deeper than confronting fear, rarer than surviving uncertainty. It is the courage to become yourself. Most people never discover who they truly are, not because they lack strength, but because the world shapes them before they ever shape themselves. Family pressures, social expectations, the desire to fit in. These carve a person long before they ever touch the chisel. Imagine a massive statue in an ancient workshop, half formed by countless different hands. One worker shapes the face, another the shoulders, another the stance. Each imposes their vision until the statue becomes a mixture of identities rather than a single truth. This is how most people live, a collection of expectations, a design crafted by others, a life that feels heavy because it never belonged to them. The Stoics refused this fate. They believed the highest courage was self-honesty, to ask the question few dare to face. Who am I beneath all of this? Marcus Aurelius removed the emperor's title when he wrote to himself. He stripped away praise and expectation until only character remained. Epictetus rose from slavery not through rebellion, but through defining his inner self on his own terms. Seneca warned that becoming who others want you to be is the slowest form of self-destruction. The courage to become yourself is the courage to step away from the noise, to release identities placed on you by others, to carve your own shape deliberately, even if the world disapproves. Picture the statue again. The outside sculptors step back. Their tools fall silent. And for the first time, the figure lifts its own chisel. Each strike removes what is false and reveals what is real. Authenticity is powerful because it is rare. It separates you from the crowd. It challenges expectations. It demands responsibility. But it also frees you, because the greatest burden in life is pretending to be someone you are not. And the greatest liberation is standing exactly as you are, without disguise, without fear, without apology. This is the Stoic path. Not imitation, but creation. Not molding yourself for the world, but molding yourself for truth. And when you begin to live as your true self, your strength becomes unmistakable. Your peace becomes unshakable. Your life becomes your own. When the teachings fade and the echoes of ancient voices settle, there is a moment of stillness, a quiet space where everything you have learned meets the person you are becoming. The storm is past, not because the world has changed, but because you have. In the silence, you see the path behind you. 15 chapters of endurance, clarity, courage, discipline, loss, rebirth, and strength. Like walking through a hall of monumental statues, each one carved with a lesson, each one etched with a virtue, each one representing a different version of you, the version that broke, the version that healed, the version that rose. This epilogue is not a conclusion. It is the moment the dust settles, and you recognize something powerful. You are no longer the same person who began this journey. You have walked through storms that once frightened you. You have faced fears that once controlled you. You have carried losses that once shattered you. You have endured pressures that once crushed you. And yet you stand here, not untouched, but transformed. Imagine the final statue, the one that stands alone at the end of the ancient path. It is different from the others, not because it is perfect, but because the marks across its surface tell the full story of its making. Cracks where fear once lived, lines where pain carved itself in, smooth surfaces where wisdom refined the rough stone, strength not painted on, but sculpted through experience. You are that statue now, not fixed in place, but anchored in truth, not immune to life, but grounded enough to face it, not emotionless, but unmoved by chaos, not without fear, but no longer governed by it. The Stoic path does not end in fire or thunder. It ends in a quiet certainty, a deep understanding that whatever comes next, you can meet it with clarity, you can meet it with discipline, you can meet it with courage. The storms will come again, the winds will rise, the world will shift, but you have become someone who does not fall with it, someone who stands, someone who sees clearly, someone who walks forward with intention, with character, with strength. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of the next chapter, the one you carve yourself, one disciplined step at a time. Stand tall. The world needs people who are unshakable. In the end, everything you have learned, everything you have endured, everything you have risen above leads to one final realization. A Stoic life is not built in a moment. It is built in every moment. Strength is not a single act of courage, but the repetition of clarity when the world pressures you to collapse. Wisdom is not a single insight, but the daily discipline of returning to what is true. Peace is not a gift handed to you, but a state you create through choice, through reason, through the mastery of your own inner world. Imagine a towering statue at the peak of a mountain overlooking the ancient world. This figure has walked through storms, faced shadows, endured fire, and stood firm through the tests of fate. The cracks across its surface are not flaws. They are proof of survival, proof of transformation, proof of a life lived with purpose. This is what a Stoic becomes. The Stoic does not seek a life without difficulty. They seek a mind strong enough to meet difficulty with integrity. The Stoic does not wish for comfort. They wish for character. The Stoic does not demand control over the world. They cultivate control over themselves. And in doing so, everything changes. Pain loses its power. Fear becomes a guide. Uncertainty becomes a challenge. Chaos becomes a teacher. Life becomes a path instead of a prison. The Stoic walks this path with calm intensity, not rushing toward the future, not clinging to the past, but meeting the present moment as if it were the only moment that exists, because it is. In this final chapter of your journey, you are no longer a statue being shaped by the world. You are the sculptor. You choose what to carve away. You choose what to strengthen. You choose what to embody. Every challenge becomes an invitation to rise. Every fear becomes a doorway to courage. Every loss becomes a lesson in love and impermanence. Every moment becomes a chance to practice the virtues that make a human being truly great. And somewhere along this path, a shift happens. You stop seeking the Stoic life. You start living it. You begin to feel a quiet certainty inside you, the sense that you can face whatever comes next. The storms may return, but they will not break you. The world may change, but you will remain yourself. Fear may whisper, but it will not command. Pain may visit, but it will not own you. You become unshakable, not because life becomes easier, but because you have become stronger. So as this journey ends, another begins, the one where you carry these principles into the world, into your choices, into your actions, into your character. Stand tall, stay steady, walk forward with purpose. And if you wish to continue growing, continue rising, continue mastering your mind, then stay close. Subscribe for daily Stoic micro lessons.